think we just found our dream apartment.
Hey, Alan, how you doing today? How's everything going?
I am doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you. I know we said I've had the opportunity to watch the new movie eVil Sublet, as that is in parentheses on purpose. But for Alan, for those who don't know about you, mind introducing yourself and letting people know who you are?
Sure. I'm Alan Piper. I am the writer-director of eVil Sublet, which is produced by Beth Ann Mastro Marino, Chris Pearson, star Jennifer Lee Houston, and myself. And we've made a horror comedy about a couple who knowingly move into a haunted apartment because the rent is cheap, and it is in October. It is available on Amazon, Fandango, and In Demand. And I hope everyone will check it out who wants to laugh or be scared.
You know, normally I'm not a spooky movie person. It's usually probably like the bottom genre of movies, but I love it when it's a touch of comedy that gives it that levity, so you don't have to be tense the entire time. And I definitely appreciate the comedy because it almost feels like there's like mini skits throughout the throughout the movie that is done very very well. But it keeps a healthy balance, I think, of the horror and the comedy, where the comedy does not overshadow the overall plot of like what's going on. I mean, because you can still be scared, as you said.
Well,
But
it is a tricky line to walk because I think there are a lot of movies that are described as horror comedies either are really just flat out comedies about spooky stuff, or they are horror movies with a little bit of irony. And we really tried to walk the absolute dividing line and have the laughs be really funny, but the scares still be really scary. And I'm pleased. You know, you say that horror is not your favorite genre. I am pleased to discover that this movie uh, is uh, is liked by people who both see themselves as people who hate horror and absolute horror enthusiasts.
mm,
Most of the festivals where we've screened have been horror festivals, and we've won awards at those festivals, and the audiences have loved it. One of the movie hooker in their review this week said that the movie will appeal to diehard horror fans,
oh,
but at the same time, there are so many people I talk to who say, I don't like horror movies, but I like this. So I'm really happy if we've been able to reach both audiences.
yeah, I can say that I can attest to the same thing. I was pleasantly surprised by the time I got to the end of this. I was like, man, I really like that movie. I'm already like, man, when is the Blu-ray and the 4K coming out? Because I'm always like, what it with the special features? I always want to know like the behind the scenes stuff like that, which I feel like they're doing less and less of. I mean, you as a movie guy, is that done on purpose now, where are they just not thinking the film like behind the scenes stuff, director commentary, or is
Well,
this a dying
I
thing
mean,
now?
I think physical media has, I think fewer, because there are upfront costs to physical media, and I think
Right.
at a time of disruption in the industry, fewer things are getting physical media releases. But I love them. I love the behind the scenes
Yeah.
stuff, and I love the commentary.
Okay, that just dives right into my first question
Sure.
then. How much I mean, obviously no spoilers, but how much on the cutting board was left that didn't actually make it into the movie that you guys have planned for some type of like extended edition? It's always a director's edition cut now, the Alan Piper cut come down 2 years later down the line.
Well,
Did you have,
this is an independent film, so the cut that you
okay,
have is the Alan Piper cut. So
okay,
I don't think there's anything. Uh, there are there are things that we cut out. I don't think there's anything that we cut out that we shouldn't have cut
okay.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it flows very well, and there was never
Oh,
a
thank you.
point where I was like, man, let me, what time is this over? It was moving, and then like I said, it kept the comedy going, and then, like I said, it was definitely enjoyable. The setting of New York City, was this your first choice of where you wanted this to be, or
Oh,
were there like
absolutely.
kind of okay,
Well, I live in New York. I'm a New Yorker. My wife, who is Jennifer Lee Houston, we live in the East Village, which in our movie we are describing as the eVil, because New Yorkers love to give abbreviated nicknames to their neighborhoods. New York is where we have neighborhoods like Tribeca, which stands for Triangle Below Canal, and Soho, which stands for South of Houston. And one of the most humorous is the neighborhood down under the Manhattan Bridge, which is called Dumbo. But I haven't heard a lot of people calling the East Village the eVil, and it seems that it should be. And so that's what the eVil in eVil Sublet is, in addition to the actual nefarious evil of the apartment. And Chris Pearson and I originally conceived of the idea many years ago after we had both spent some time living in New York. And we thought the idea of people choosing to live in a haunted apartment because the rent is cheap is very New Yorky, because New Yorkers will do almost anything to keep an affordable roof over their heads. But I've got to say right now, I think anyone can relate to that. Rents have been skyrocketing across the country. You're in the DC metro area, right?
Yes.
That is certainly a high rent area. We screened at the DC Independent Film Festival, and the audience there certainly related to the idea of the lengths that people would go to for an affordable apartment.
Yeah, it's crazy. I have a couple friends that live in New York themselves, and they tell me what the prices are, and I'm like, it can't be worth all that. You know what I mean? For you to stay, people just really just want to stay in the space of New York, the environment, the people, stuff like that. But eventually it's gonna edge you out. Like it's no way. I mean, I don't know with the, obviously what the jobs are paying out in New York versus like what the rent is, but you gotta have like 7 people to live with you to afford a 1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, so, or a lot of ghosts.
Yeah, it's never that serious. But yeah, like I said, New York, I think it was just perfect backdrop, perfect city for this. Seeing the lengths that people will go to for a $2,000 apartment, which is apparently a really good deal. And
yes, that is, and we did actually exaggerate it. That is the rent in that apartment was somewhat more than that. But yes, yeah, no, $2,000 for a 3-bedroom in the East Village, which is what's described in the movie. Yeah, that would be that's a steal indeed.
Yeah. You guys make a ongoing joke in the movie about the kitchen. Apparently, is that not a thing, or is like?
No, yeah, you are really lucky in New York if you get an eat-in kitchen. People who don't live in New York watch Seinfeld and Friends, and they see these big apartments. Yeah. And those apartments don't really exist. Well, they exist for very wealthy people. For regular New Yorkers don't live in apartments of that size. So yeah, it is a big deal to have an eat-in kitchen.
Jennifer and Charlie, who play Alex and Ben in the movie, great actors.
They're wonderful.
Really sold it. Like I said, I know you were saying like a lot of people that personally are in the movie. I mean, they've gotten the role. Were they your first choice for this, or did you kind of like mix it up?
Yeah. Movies are hard to make. They're really hard to make. It's a real long commitment that you're making with people, and indie films particularly so. And so I wanted to work with people that I legitimately loved, and that's what I did. And then we created. Chris and I conceived of the characters, and we created them around the actors that we wanted to have in the roles. And it's funny, Jen and Charlie, I knew they would have great on-screen chemistry together because Charlie used to date Jen, my wife, and so I know that they have chemistry. And some people would think, oh, isn't that kind of odd that you're directing your wife in a scene where she's playing the wife of her actual ex-boyfriend? But you know what? We're New Yorkers, and we don't think anything is weird. That is, and they are fantastic on screen together.
As soon as you said that, it just brought back the joke that was made early in the movie about So your wife's character and her ex in the movie, was that commentary on that, or was that just pure coincidence?
Well, I mean, we yeah. So Jen plays Alex in the movie, and Alex is her husband is Ben,
Mm.
and her ex-wife is played by Leanne Borghese, and so there is indeed a dynamic between the three of them. So you have the current spouse and you have the ex, and they ultimately all get dragged into it in various ways to fight the evil in the apartment. And I think that perhaps there are some real life parallels in that Charlie is Jen's ex, and he's a big part of our lives. Actually, we take care of his kid a lot of the times. The kid that he has with his wife, who plays his sister in the movie, Michelle Ammon. So those are in New York, you don't always live with your actual real life family in New York. You often live with the people that you have collected as a chosen family, and that may not be a traditional family arrangement, but that's how New Yorkers, that's how we get through it all.
Yeah, you write what you know, right? Like it's it's definitely that familiar aspect of it all, because it definitely feels like everybody's family, like everybody pretty much knew each other in this movie. You could definitely feel that in the energy of the exchange and the actors.
And I had the good fortune of, I didn't only work with people who are my friends. It just happens that my friends are extremely talented performers, and so
it always helps.
yes. So I've just had very good fortune to work with, to be friends with very talented people who could be in this movie.
In terms of the writing side of it, I am curious, how long did it take you to? I know you were co-writing this, but like, how long did it take you guys to get this together? Like, was it like a couple years, or you got this done, or this is something that you've had in your back pocket for a while that you've been working on?
Well, Chris and I had come up with the idea many years ago, and then one day I just decided, you know what, it's time to write it. And I was on a trip with Jen, and I hadn't even brought a computer with me. So one day, just the week that we were gone on vacation, I basically just got up an hour before her every day and wrote the first draft on my phone. And my thumbs, I didn't think my thumbs would ever recover from the strain of that. And then Chris and I polished up the script. But the entire process took much longer than we originally expected, because we were shooting the movie's opening scene on March 20th. On March 7th of 2020, which was the day New York declared a state of emergency over COVID. Yeah. And we had been planning to shoot pretty much the entire film in March and April of 2020, when New York then became the global coronavirus epicenter. And so everything got put on hold for over a year. And in that time, SAG gave us permission, since Jen and I were living on the set, because we were filming in the actual haunted apartment where we lived. Since we were living on the set, they said, all right, you can shoot stuff. You know, you guys are together anyway. Yes, production is technically stopped, but you guys can film stuff because you're on, you know, there's no added risk. So we did end up expanding the film considerably as a result of that. And it worked out for the best. Some of my favorite scenes are most of the scenes where Alex is alone in the apartment are scenes that we filmed in quarantine with no one else there. And they were invented during that time, because we thought, well, what can we do with just Alex? And they're some of my favorite, and I think some of the scariest scenes in the movie.
That kind of leads into my question too, is the why was Alex like was picked to be the focal point to kind of like lead the the movie through her perspective, like, you know, versus like it's her and the husband or anybody else. Why was it just her that was kind of like the driving thing, the driving force to lead the audience to where it goes?
Well, I think I'll tell you one of the things that I think is exciting about the horror genre is that I think it is um, it's a more feminist genre than most movies are. Very often, the protagonists are women, and
Right.
one of the reasons that we created this script is that Jen is this tremendous actor, but as an actor, as a woman actor, she isn't always doesn't always have the opportunity to read for parts that really get to play her full range. And I
Right.
wanted her to have a role where she could be hilarious and tragic and terrified and terrifying, and the horror genre really allows for that. And I think it is it I mean, it's usually there are exceptions, of course. You know, you get uh you have movies like The Changeling, where a man will be the person who experiences the haunted house, but more often it tends to be the woman, and the woman's husband tends to be the person who kind of laughs off the supernatural.
Right. Oh yeah, that definitely cleared that up. From a You're also directing in this movie. Also, you know, every time I get an opportunity to ask, I gotta know what was something different. I mean, obviously you've done other movies here. What was something different that you felt that you were doing differently for this movie that you weren't doing in other movies that you filmed or been a part of direction for?
Well, we definitely worked with a smaller team than we would have otherwise. Now, there were a lot of people involved in this overall, particularly, as I mentioned, producer Beth Ann Mastro Marino and Chris Pearson. But and we had a wonderful additional crew for some of the scenes. But for a lot of the scenes, because we were emerging from COVID, we wanted to have the absolute minimum number of people on set, especially working in a small apartment space. So for a lot of the scenes, I was the entire crew. So that is something that is I wouldn't necessarily have done on every movie, and hopefully won't necessarily do on the next movie. But it worked out well for this one.
Was there anything in particular that you definitely wanted to get across as you were filming this movie, that you wanted to get like the audience to see? Like, you know, most directors kind of have like a staple or something that like comes across. Like, do you have like a signature that you wanted to get across in the movie, like that you like, hey, this is an Alan Piper film right here, like you know this is one of your movies?
I just want my goal was to make a movie that would both scare people and make people laugh.
Yeah.
And so that's the goal with this movie. The That's not the goal. My last movie was a documentary, so wasn't trying to scare anyone.
Yeah, obviously.
But
Sometimes they can be scary. They can be scary.
they
Yeah,
can be.
the truth is scary.
So yeah, I don't, and it's not about me. It's about even with a small crew, filmmaking is a very collaborative process. So
Right.
I wanted to celebrate the people that we were putting on screen. I wanted to celebrate the city where we were filming. And I wanted to celebrate a genre that I love. Jen and Chris and I have loved horror movies since we were kids in high school together, and Jen and I watch horror movies all the time, and we wanted to make a movie that was a love letter to horror movies and a love letter to New York, and particularly to our neighborhood, the eVil.
um, the the characters that are in the movie, and particularly the one that you have behind you right now, it get a lot of names. And usually, they try to name your evil character, stuff like that. Did he have a name? Because he just kind of pops in throughout the movie, stuff like that. Did you have like names for your evil spirit characters throughout the movie, anything like that?
I'm not even sure what name we used to describe this character in the credits. I think we might have called him the funny face figure. So this face is, we're celebrating the East Village, but another neighborhood that we celebrate in this movie is Coney Island. And the Coney Island funny face is a symbol that has become iconic of Coney Island. It originated at Steeplechase Amusement Park. And this particular version of it was created by an artist named Brendan Schweda. And I just loved it so much. I asked if we could put it in the movie, and he said sure. And so there are numerous scary apparitions in the haunted apartment. And we didn't necessarily go in with the idea that one would be more prominent than another. But the combination of Brendan Schweda's mask and Patrick Wall, the actor behind it, who, even though you can't see his face, brings so much menace through his physicality to the role. I think that figure really did become a principal villain adversary in the film. And so so I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that it's an image that that stuck with you and that sticks with others.
I gotta say, more than anything else, I'm not a fan of the Scooby-Doo paintings, man. Every time I go to a museum or something like that, that's the first thing I think of, like the eyes and the paintings, stuff like that, which you definitely focus in on this movie. And I'm like, why does he keep showing this? This movie, the paintings and stuff like that. Yeah, they really get to me. When you go to a Cracker Barrel and they have those old timey like photos on the wall. Nah, I gotta get out of here. I can't do it. It needs to be every time. But yeah, like I said, the movie, Allan, it was absolutely amazing. I think you hit every nail in the coffin, like just had balancing this between the comedy and the horror aspect of it. And it's just, like I say, just did a phenomenal job. This is definitely something that I want to watch again. This is definitely going to be a Friday night movie that I want to show friends and family. Like, hey, have you seen this? Let me any excuse to put it on at this point, because it definitely was that good. I definitely enjoyed it. Like I said, usually not my favorite genre, but this is definitely a rewatch for me. But I will close on this question. It's probably random, but the scene where Jennifer Alex is running down the stairs and frantically throwing everything out of her purse. Was that like what was how much? She had a lot of stuff that was just coming out of her head. Like if you blink, you miss. If you blink, you miss it. How many times did you guys have to film that? Like as she's coming down the stairs.
We had to film that a few times. I'll tell you, that was one of the things that we filmed during quarantine. And we lived in a building that had 4 units, and during COVID, the other 3 units evacuated. So we had the whole building to ourselves. So we could film in a stairwell. So pretty much all these stair scenes happen, except not all of them. There are a couple other stair scenes that involve other people, and those didn't happen during quarantine. But the stairs, when Alex is running down the stairs, we took over the whole stairwell, lit it, put the camera rig there, and didn't have to worry about neighbors coming or going because we were the only people living in the building at that time. So we could scream and make noise at any hour of the day or night. So I don't want to. COVID was one of the worst things that New York City has ever endured. So I don't want to. I don't want to celebrate anything about it. But I will say that there were a handful of silver linings, and for us in particular, the fact that we suddenly had an entire apartment building to ourselves to go crazy in certainly made it possible to do some things that would have been hard to do otherwise. And yes, so we had her. That was a scene we had her just pulling. She's looking for her phone, and she's just pulling all of these items out of her purse, a ridiculous amount of items. And this is an area where we were trying to just walk that line between humor and horror, because my wife, like I think a lot of women has a lot of stuff in her purse,
Yeah.
stuff that she has no idea how it even got there. And so we thought, well, what if, you take an ordinary situation of, oh, you're having trouble finding something in your purse. Let's amp it up. Your life depends on finding something that you have in your purse, and let's just amp up even more objects that can be there.
Yeah, it definitely had like a Looney Tunes Tex Avery feel to it. That and the scene where they're in the kitchen taking stuff out of the stove. I'm like, why is there so much stuff in the stove? Like, this is a storage area.
But in New York, you do. We don't, because we like to cook a lot. But honestly, most New Yorkers do use their ovens for at least some amount of storage, because they don't have storage space.
Right,
and
right.
most New Yorkers actually don't cook a lot. Maybe that's changing because the price of takeout is getting so much more.
Yeah,
But yeah, traditionally a lot of New Yorkers, well, most New Yorkers don't have an eat-in kitchen, and most New Yorkers don't have a kitchen that's big enough to do a lot of cooking in if you wanted to. And so yeah, a lot of New Yorkers do honestly use their ovens as for storage.
Well, I'm glad we definitely got a chance to clear that up. Allan, for those who don't know, when is eVil Sublet officially coming out for the rest of the world to see, and how would they be able to watch it?
As of October 1st, you can rent eVil Sublet anywhere in North America on Amazon, Fandango, and In Demand. If you are in Pittsburgh on October 13th, you can see our final film festival screening at the Pittsburgh Moving Picture Festival's Thriller Picture Show. That is Sunday, October 13th at 2:30 p.m. at the Lindsay Theater. And anyone who wants to learn more about eVil Sublet can look for eVil Sublet on Facebook, on Twitter, or look for me on most social media platforms as apiper13.
Well, there you go. I mean, I could definitely attest to it. The film is great. I definitely want to watch it again. I can't wait for it to hit those platforms so I can have it in my library. Allan, you did a really good job. You and the rest of the crew involved. Despite you having to go through all that, because it's been a couple years now since that whole event that happened to the world. But I'm glad you were able to pull through it, and you pulled off an excellent film here. This is great.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. I hope to see you again next time. See you.
Okay.